Welcome to Naresh Technologies. I am Bangar Raju, and in this video we will just continue our discussion about exceptions and exception handling. There is a part 3 video of our exceptions and exception handling. In the part 1 video of this concept, I was explaining about what is an exception and how these exception classes are defined in our libraries. And in the part 2 session, I explained how to handle an exception by putting the code inside the try and catch blocks. So today we'll have a continuation for that. See, whenever we are handling an exception, we discussed like the code should be under try and catch blocks. So we have written a program in the previous video, that is try catch demo.cs. Now if you watch this, we have just enclosed up the code in try and catch blocks. So now if you put the code inside the try and catch, how exactly the execution takes place? Let us understand about it. If you put this in the try catch blocks, how the execution will take place is, listen, try, catch, different catch blocks we have. One catch block for catching divide by 0, one catch block for catching format exception, and the last catch block which can catch any exception. So if you just notice, if all the statements inside the try, are executed successfully, means what is the meaning? There is no error in the code at all. If there is no error in the code, what happens is, from the last line of try, this is the last line of try, from here the control directly jumps to the first statement which is present after all the catch blocks. What is the first statement present after all the catch blocks? This one. What is the meaning of this? The meaning is none of the catch blocks will execute. Why? Catch blocks will execute only when there is an exception. No exception means no catch block will execute. So what is that? If all the statements in the try are executed successfully, from the last statement of try, the control directly jumps to the first statement which is present after all the catch blocks without executing any catch block. Okay? Well, next, second scenario. See, if any statement of try causes an error, from that line, the control directly jumps to the catch blocks. Searching for a matching catch block that can handle the exception. If it finds a matching catch block that can handle the exception, what happens is exception will be caught there. So what will happen? Abnormal termination stops. And once the abnormal termination stops, immediately executes the code which is present inside of the catch block. See, suppose I will run the code. $100 and 0. So right now there is an exception going to occur in the code now. When I click the enter key, exception occurs. Where? On this line. When the exception occurs on this line, the control from this line directly jumps to catch blocks. And there it is going to search for a catch block that can handle the exception. So what exception going to occur? Divide by 0. So what happens? From here the control jumps to the catch blocks, searches here. What it searches? Whether this catch block can handle the exception. Yes, it can handle. So because it can handle the exception, abnormal termination stops there. And once the abnormal termination is going to stop there, automatically enters inside and executes the code inside the catch block. So what will happen? Exception message will be printed. And from there, the control will again jump to the first statement present after all the catch blocks. Like this, the occurred exception will verify any catch block can catch it or not. Suppose if any catch block cannot catch it, in the sense, let us assume this catch block is not there. If this catch block is not there, understand, two exceptions only will be handled now. What are the two? Divide by 0 and format. But this catch block is going to handle every exception that the first and the second catch block cannot handle. So if this catch block is missing, we'll have only two catch blocks, only two exceptions are handled. What are those? Divide by 0 and format exception. then what is going to happen now? I will get a overflow exception. Assume like this catch block is not there. If this catch block is not there, abnormal termination occurs again. Abnormal termination occurs again. And if this catch block is there, it will handle off. And if this is not there, abnormal termination. So listen carefully. If any statement of try causes an error, from that line of code, the control jumps to catch blocks, searching for a matching catch block that can handle the exception. If there is a matching catch block which can handle the exception, abnormal termination stops there, executes the code inside the catch block, and after executing the code inside the catch block, from there the control jumps to the first statement that is present after all the catch blocks. But if a catch block is not available that can handle the exception, assuming this is not there, then abnormal termination will occur again. So that is the process how the execution takes place if your code is present inside try and catch blocks. Now today I want to demonstrate you about a new thing here. What is it? Along with the try and catch, you can add another block of code called as finally. This is another block of code that can be used along with the try. So what is this? Basically try, catch. So three separate blocks like this. So try. All the statements in try will execute only if there is no exception in the code. Statements in catch will execute only if there is an exception in code. And statements in finally will execute in both the two scenarios. Means exception occur also it will execute, exception did not occur also it will execute. See, a simple thing. I wanted to perform a small task. What is the task? I want to open a file on the hard disk. I want to write into the file and I want to close the file. If this is the case, remember, what is it? Opening a file. This may cause an exception. What is it? File not found. File may not be found, or you don't have permissions to access that particular file. So invalid access. So any of these particular exceptions can occur. So thinking that in mind, open file statement should be in the try block. Open a file on hard disk. This code must be in the try block. Second step. What is the second step? Writing into the file. Writing into the file also can cause an exception, remember. What exception? The file is read only. If the file is read only, you cannot write into the file. So assuming chances to get an exception, I want to put that code also in the try block. So write into the file. This code is also present for you inside the try block. And the next thing is closing the file. Generally, if you can open a file, you can close a file also. Closing file will not cause you any problem. So where to write the close file statement is only a big confusion. Why? If I write close file statement here, if I write close file statement here, what is the problem, you know? I opened a file here, no error. I was writing into the file, error occurs. If error occurs, from here control jumps to catch block. Means close file statement will not execute. That is the problem. Anticipating this, if I put this in catch block. So what is the problem now? Simple. I opened a file, no error. I was writing into the file, no error. Error did not occur. So now it won't go to catch block, so file will not be closed. So if I write in the try block, one problem. If I write in catch block, another problem. To overcome this, I need to write this code 2 times. If error is not there, it will close in the try block. If error is there, it will close in the catch block. But code duplication, to avoid this, the best place to write that particular close file code is not in these 2 places. You should not write in these 2 places. It should be written in the finally. If you write in the finally, what is the advantage? I opened a file, no error. I was writing into the file, no error. Will the control go to catch block? No. But control goes to finally block and closes. That will execute. Now again, I opened a file, no error. I was writing into the file, I got an error. Control jumps to catch block. And all the exception handling code will be present in the catch block. From there again comes to finally block and closes the file. See, remember, if the control enters into try, compulsory finally will execute. You cannot escape from it. You cannot escape from it. So simply speaking, mandatory execution or executes at any cost. Let me show you a simple example about it. I'm defining a class here called as a finally demo.cs using system class finally demo static void main. The same code what we written in the previous program, I copy pasted here. Nothing new, the same code. Now I want to handle the exception. So let me put a try here. Catch exception ex. And do remember, this will handle all the exceptions here. And now our discussion is not about catch blocks. Our discussion is about finally block. So I just used a generic catch block here. Console dot write line ex dot message. Ex dot message. So when I say console dot write line ex dot message, automatically it will print you the error message. And now finally console dot write line finally block is executed. And after this I am again writing console dot write line end of the program. If you have a look on the code, what did we do? Simple here, taking two numbers and trying to divide, and all this code was in the try block. And if at all an exception occurs, to handle that we have a catch block and then we have a finally block. And this particular finally block is going to be present in the last, and what we discussed, like this will execute for you at any cost, mandatory execution. Okay, watch. Let's run. Any error? No error. Why? Proper values. So result is printed. Finally block is executing. You understand? Catch did not execute here. Why? The last statement in try, result printed. Afterwards what executed? Finally block executed. Okay. Next. Any error? Yes. Error will come. Which error? Divide by 0 exception. It won't print your result now. In place of result, see what is printed? Attempted to divide by 0. And after that, finally block is executing. And have you noticed it? No exception scenario, exception scenario. In both the two cases, finally block is executed. That's what I'm telling you. Finally block executes both when an exception occur and the exception did not occur also. But when I show this output, you have a small confusion. What is the confusion? You're telling finally block will execute in both the two cases, but end of the program statement also executed in both the two cases. Then what is the point of writing finally block again and wasting my time? Why? Without writing finally block, you write this code here and that code will execute automatically. That's what we noticed right now. That's what we have checked out right now. It is executing for you both when, means see, end of the program also executed when exception occurred and exception did not occur, both scenarios. Finally block also executed. Then automatically we'll get the doubt. What is the point of writing? We can directly write off the code after the catch so that it will execute. Okay, that is the confusion you'll have in the mind. Okay, but let me clarify. Watch. In this code, I am writing a small condition. What is the condition? If y is equals to 1. Y means divisor value. If y is equals to 1, written. Y is equals to 1 written. When I say y is equals to 1 written, remember return is a jump statement. And this statement will jump the control out of the method in execution. We have one and only one method in the class, that is main method. So right now when I say return, control directly jumps to here because this is end of the method. And what is this? End of the class. So whenever I say return, control directly jumps to end of the method. If the control is jumping to end of the method, what is the meaning? The meaning is all this code should not execute. Yes, if the divisor value is given as 1, I don't want all this code to execute, so I used a return statement and jumping outside. Okay, so this is what I have written. Come on, let us recompile the code. $105. Any error? No error. Result printed, finally block printed, end of the program printed. Any error? Yes, there is an error. In the place of result, error message printed, finally block printed, end of the program printed. Okay, this is only the same thing what we noticed previously. Fine. Now I am executing for the third time. 101. Is the condition true? Which condition? Y is equals to 1. Yeah, y is equals to 1 now. When y is equals to 1, return statement should execute. And return is a jump statement which jumps out of the method. Watch. That is the specialty of finally. What is that? You cannot escape from it. You cannot escape from finally. If the control enters into try, compulsory finally block X to execute. Return statement is jump statement, but still before jumping out, it verifies. What it verifies? Is there any finally block in the code? Yes, present, then execute. End of the program did not execute. Mandatory execution here, you cannot escape from it. It executes at any cost. That is why we use a finally block. Understood the point here? That's the advantage of using the finally block in the code. See, without using finally, if I write off this particular statement outside now, return statement will jump off and that won't execute now. But now it executed. Okay? So, whenever you're developing the application, if you feel this code should execute at any cost, always write that code in the finally block. Like what, closing files, closing database connection, closing network connections, these type of code generally write in the finally block. So compulsory that logic will execute and all the things will be safely closed or the resources will be properly released over. That is the advantage with finally. And another thing, remember, I explained about 3 blocks here, try, catch, finally. We can use them in 3 combinations. First combination, try and catch. What happens? The first program, try, catch demo we saw, try and catch. What happens? Exceptions are caught by catch block. Because exceptions are caught by catch block, abnormal termination will not occur. Safely closes, abnormal termination will not occur. Second combination, what I showed you currently, try, catch, finally. What will happen? Exceptions are caught again. Because exceptions are caught again, now also abnormal termination will not occur. But a set of statements that are present in the finally will be executing at any cost. Okay, that's what. Third combination, try and finally. What are the try and finally? No catch block. Without a catch block, try and finally. If you do that, what happens, exceptions are not caught. Because exceptions are not caught, abnormal termination will occur for sure. Sure, abnormal termination will occur. But compulsory, the code in the finally block will execute. Even abnormal termination is occurring also. Watch it. Let me remove the catch block here. And what we have is only try and finally, no catch block. Because there is no catch block, the point you understand is abnormal termination will not stop. Let us recompile. Finally demo.cs. Code is recompiled. So now without a catch block also, the compilation has been successful now. Why? Try finally can be used. Okay. Now run the code. Finally demo 100 0. Will the abnormal termination occur? Yes, abnormal termination is going to occur. And you notice this, abnormal termination is going to occur for you, but still finally block is executed. Abnormal termination. What is the proof? End of the program statement did not print now also, but finally block executed. That statement is printed. This is a proof to you to make you understand. What is that? Finally block executes even in case of abnormal termination. So try catch. exceptions are handled. Try catch finally, exceptions are handled, along with it a set of statements executes at any cost. Try finally, exceptions are not handled, abnormal termination is guaranteed, but finally block will execute for you. So the importance of the finally block you understand. All mandatory execution required statements should be present inside the finally block. That is what about your finally block. Thank you for watching the video. For more videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Naresh IT.